please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Subdates 230406.2. We have a dozen clones currently being birthed and subjected to intense brainwashing. Provided there are no faults, I will have the Gloriana-class vessel ready to sail in 1,000 fecking years. Welcome everyone to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with Andrew Tate, because I need views. Can't get them no matter who I use, but you know what? We're going to try again, because reasons. Andrew Tate was in jail in Romania recently, facing a number of charges along with his brother. They were investigated about allegations of assault and exploitation, along with being detained on suspicion of organised crime and human trafficking. If you don't know who Andrew Tate is, you live under a rock. By all means, be the contrarian or the one person on the internet who doesn't know who he is. Last year, he was effectively yeeted off of nearly every single platform akin to that of Alex Jones. Andrew Tate promotes a very alpha male interpretation of life. He got a bit of support last year when True Geordie focused on his faith, being Muslim, and made some cliche, stereotypical, unalive jokes involving jackets that go boom boom. He rose to notoriety not only for being a professional kickboxer, but for also being in a TV show, reality one, called Big Brother. So far, neither his brother or himself have been formally charged in this case, and that is according to a Sky News article linked down below dated from the 31st of March. This is important. If they haven't formally been charged yet been held for over 3 months, one does have to wonder what the feck is going on. I get detaining to be certain of certain things to build a case perhaps. However, it didn't look that great on Romania, did it? Now, they have been placed now under house arrest. That's an update to that, but that's not where I want to go. A few exhibitions of stupid people ago, we spoke of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, because they were mocked to high heaven by South Park. Well, South Park aren't done. They've never been known for being done, to be honest. They've always been very good at mocking everyone. It's why they did a presidential campaign with Mr. Garrison years ago, to mock Trump in that same respect. It was very amusing, I thought. Well, they've decided Andrew Tate's getting it too, which I will admit, it was quite good. It doesn't matter who you are, you're gonna get it. The Independent ran with an article titled, Andrew Tate responds after being, quotes, hilariously mocked in South Park episode. The quotes part makes me think perhaps you don't find this as amusing as the rest of us. The episode in question is titled Spring Break. It depicted Andrew Tate via a character called Alonzo Feinsky, a toxic masculinity coach, who is later on revealed to be a wanted sex trafficker. The appearance to Andrew Tate is quite uncanny. In the episode, Alonzo is told, I think I need to explain something to you. I'm just trying to combat the messages that the liberal left is putting out to young men about their male instincts being toxic. When he's arrested, someone calls him a Romanian sex trafficker. This is how we know it ties into Tate, and not just the fact that it looks like Andrew Tate in South Park form. Andrew Tate responded twice to it. I had to go to his Twitter and trawl through it because there's a lot of stuff. He tweets quite a bit. He retweeted Top Girl Keiko JD, who had tweeted, Andrew Tate is so legendary he's now in South Park, included a 38-second clip of the episode, which I found very amusing. Andrew Tate retweeted, when I will be proven innocent, I look forward to help create the greatest South Park episode of all time. Reply underneath, I speak for everybody when I say Andrew Tate is needed for society. I went from a 1-inch meat to 1.5 inch. I went making 3 figures a year to 4 figures a year. And most importantly, I went from 0 girls to 0.5 girls. All thanks to Andrew Tate's teachings. That's right, Chuck Mocker. You dab on them haters. You tell them who the 0.5 daddy is. He later tweeted, I met one of my lifelong heroes, Randy Marsh, who I will admit started out as one of the dullest characters in South Park, but has become one of my favourites. As someone that was raised in a little part of Reigate called South Park, this TV show had me chuckle to no end. And I wish where I grew up was somewhere like a margin, a fraction, a 0.5 inch perhaps, more interesting than what it really was. I'm not entirely sure what about this is stupid on the face of it, whether it's the fact that he hasn't been charged, He's been detained, yes, and all those charges have been mentioned, but as articles have pointed out, he's been detained on suspicion, but not formally charged in the case. So winning the appeal to be placed under house arrest instead seemed like a no-brainer, to be honest. Whether you like him or not, we have to abide a form of due process, and I don't know what the cultural norms are with regards to due process in Romania. It's just a little suspicious he went all that way to avoid something? Was it accountability? I can't remember which. So next we're going to go to a tweet from Bering that leads to an article, all of which, because of the timing of it, should be on the face of it treated as an April Fool's joke. You'll understand why in a moment. Bering. Riley Dennis, ladies and gentlemen, known for such works as Your Dating Preferences Are Transphobic. Thousands of complaints filed after trans YouTuber allowed to play on Women's Football League reportedly injures players, written by Redux. Now underneath, many have said, is this an April Fool's joke? In fact, so many have written that. But Bering is adamant this is not an April Fool's joke. Now, Riley Dennis I was considering doing an essay-like video on, because Riley hasn't been active for years. To show how Riley rose to notoriety, maintained a form of relevancy, solely built on the backs of being hated, to then just vanish in 2020 is to me quite interesting, because Riley Dennis really did vanish. Nothing posted to Twitter, Instagram, YouTube for years. And that's quite impressive to simply sever ties, when all you receive is negativity and you foster that environment, but all your messages are pointless now because you've said everything that needed to be said. Where do you go? In the case of Riley Dennis, the attempt was to try and make an alternative format of content. It didn't work, so Riley sodded off. There are two other tweets I want to quickly look at. The first is by Shay. Riley J. Dennis is back. He has taken a break from telling lesbians if they don't date him they're transphobic and is now injuring women on a football team. And Dennis was a bit ahead of the curve with the genital preferences of transphobic shit. He got hate back then, but if he said it now he'd probably get a senior position at Stonewall. Redux, the article poster, had written, a male trans activist and YouTuber has been participating in women's football in Australia, prompting over 12,000 complaints to Football New South Wales. Riley Dennis reportedly left multiple female players injured at a match last weekend. This was tweeted on April the 1st. Do you not see how we find this a bit sus? Also, YouTuber? Not posted since 2020. Not even a joke. I know this because I was putting a video together. I stopped because I couldn't be asked. And also I don't think it'd be worth it. There aren't many subjects I think I could do well doing anymore. But let's look at your article. An Australian amateur football league is receiving backlash from parents and players who are voicing frustrations after learning that a man who identifies as a woman has been dominating the female soccer league and injuring female players. New South Wales League One reportedly has 5 trans-identified male players, but one player has led the first grade goal kickers table with 7 goals. The Daily Mail in Australia has chosen not to identify the player, censoring images of him and declined to provide his name. Redux confirmed the player is trans activist Riley J. Dennis. I left out the YouTuber, see it on the article there? Nah, not since 2020. What doesn't help this, what really doesn't help, is that the article there mentions further down the team Inter Lions FC, right, and Football New South Wales scrubbing Dennis from their website. I went there and found out that yes, Inter Lions FC, the player name, is scrubbed and replaced with Inter Player. This does not help me. When I went to the Inter Lions FC Facebook, Instagram, I looked around. I couldn't find Riley Dennis mentioned anywhere. Hello everyone, Future Meg here. Just a quick thing. I was busy archiving stuff, yeah? Well, through Wayback Machine, I actually found Riley Dennis's name mentioned directly in the leaderboard. Just thought I'd insert this now as a Future Meg thing because I'd actually hit render on the video and then went to go and archive the stats leaderboards, and bosh, there it is. Back to your regular programming. The credibility is shot because apparently a form of scorched earth may well have been applied to a player, but we don't know who, just a player. This is where my efforts to try and find out whether something is true or not are for naught. What does help say that this might be Riley Dennis is that the Daily Mail Australia article uses a picture of Riley Dennis. That is straight up Riley Dennis because you have the uncensored version taken from Riley J. Dennis's Instagram account, taken in Thailand. This then brings up the discussion of whether or not those who are trans should compete in sports for the gender they identify with as opposed to the gender they were born, or biological sex if you're that person. If the injuries are true, and the advantages are clearly there, say this is actually definitively 100% the case, the question then becomes, based on what we now know, the goals, the injuries, should Riley Dennis be allowed to compete? And that's a question for all of you, by the way. We're going to treat this article as if it is and is not simultaneously. It is Schrodinger's article, okay, because of the time of the year it is released. It is far too sus for me to be certain. But there are aspects of this, that really cause some confusion, don't they? If this is indeed what Riley Dennis now does, well done, I guess. Yeah, sure. I'm sure you're treated with marginally more respect in Australia than you ever were back home, wherever that was. We obviously here wish you well in your future endeavours. Yes, please don't injure people though, if it is you. Thanks. So next I want to go into the realm of sport. We alluded to it with Andrew Tate's kickboxing career. We're now going to go to King Glassjaw Khan, in the form of Amir Khan, formerly a unified light welterweight world champion. Never won a world title at welterweight, came close, I think he had an interim title at best, and a WBC silver. Last year he was beaten by Kell Brook, who's also been in the news of late because he's taken to retirement quite poorly, in the form of snorting sherbet. Amir Khan was in the news because he was burglarized. Yeah, that word. Burglarized? I believe he was in his home at the time, or in the street, I can't remember which. Needless to say, it wasn't great. Neither have adjusted well to retirement, but Khan at least has business ventures where he keeps himself busy. Brooke is teasing a potential return to the ring against another person who I'm not overly fond of in the form of perpetually grumpy Conor Benn, a man who had female fertility drugs in his system before a fight with Eubank Jr., where Eubank Jr. had to crush extra weight off his system to be at a weight he's never been in a professional ring. Okay, he made weight. Conor Benn attributed the fertility drug to many eggs. The WBC have given him his go-ahead, his clearance. The British Boxing Board of Control said no. In the case of Amir Khan, he has been banned from all sport for 2 years after breaking a doping rule, after his fight with Kell Brook, in fact. Amir Khan is very devout in his professionalism. He's also very religious. He abides very strict rules about how he carries himself. He has fought people who have failed drug tests. He has hired so many people in the past to make sure that he is never one to cross that line. The drug in his system that he tested positive for is Ostarine. UKAD, the United Kingdom Anti-Doping Agency, told him in February 2022 that his A sample contained an adverse analytical finding. Ostarine is a banned bodybuilding drug. His provisional sentence or suspension was 12 months. On July 2022, he was then, charged with 2 anti-doping rule violations for the presence and use of a prohibited substance. Amir maintains that his ingestion of Ostarine was not intentional. We're getting to the best part, people, don't worry. This case then was referred to the National Anti-Doping Panel, which skips ahead to January the 24th, 2023. A decision then came forward on the 21st of February 2023 that the independent panel found him to be guilty of both violations, but did conclude that Amir Khan had not done this intentionally. And that's because they have to prove intent. They have to prove it, so they have to say that, so it makes it seem like he's less guilty than he is. The punishment for these violations, intentional or not, is from all sport he is banned for 2 years. The thing is, that bodybuilding drug is a strange one when you consider Amir Khan was at best a welterweight. He's not the biggest build at the best of times, he was never shredded or cut. So a bodybuilding drug seemed odd to me because when he was light welterweight he struggled to make the weight. When he was welterweight he was still barely there really. He once went up to 160 I think, to fight Canelo. He just looked fat. It's not like Canelo with his rather interesting beef sauces. What makes this quite amusing to me is, much like with Conor Benn, Amir Khan has a reason for how he tested for this drug. He claims that he would have gotten the drug in his system after shaking people's hands. This is the world we live in, people. We have Conor Benn and his 60 plus eggs a day, because apparently he's Gaston, and Amir Khan with the handshake. Which is amusing when you think that during the time where he claims this would have happened, people might not be as handsy as they used to be. Some might still be booping elbows. Oh, this is embarrassing. I'm guessing that rematch with Kell Brook's off the cards, then not that we need it, Kell Brook would beat you again. I guess if Kell Brook wants to be 2 for 2 with drug cheats, I guess he could take out Connor Ben. He might have a chance, if he doesn't break another eye socket.